There's a kind of distance that happens in marriages and relationships that isn't really loud or explosive necessarily, or at least not all the time. It's quiet and it can feel more subtle, but you know something's off. Nobody's throwing around the D word necessarily, but you don't you don't have that time to connect. You don't feel close and you don't like it, right? And this is real. I feel it's almost inevitable in relationship as you go through the years together that you're going to have seasons of ebb and flow that feel distant. And so in this video, I really wanted to talk about 5 things that I would do and have done to reconnect in my marriage when it feels disconnected, when it feels off. And these are not like, it's not a list of like date night and things like that. I have nothing against date night. Okay. I have thoughts about it. Maybe I'll do another video about the narrative, but I have nothing against date night at all. But these are things that I don't hear people talking about. These are things that may surprise you. These are things that may even, be off putting at first. But these are things that work. And like I said, I don't hear it a lot. And so I wanted to talk about it here because it's important. So let's get into it. So, 5 things. The first thing that I would do if I was in a season of just feeling like we're not connecting, we're not gelling, communication is off, it feels like a lot of things are turning into an argument or just like a snippy discussion, and it just doesn't feel right. And I want to fix it. And I know that's going to take some time, and I'm not sure where to start. I'm going to start with self. I'm going to get with self, which means I'm going to look at 2 things. I'm going to look at what I bring to the table, what things I know that I bring to the table that feel like they're working, that feel good in the relationship, and then what I'm contributing to the issues in the relationship, what I'm contributing to the offness and to the disconnect or to the distance. And here's the thing, right? I say this and I know it can immediately feel off putting. This doesn't mean that everything is your fault, right? There's those moments where you feel like, oh, it's all on me. But that's really because of blame. And I'm not talking about blame. For example, I talked to many, many couples over the years, over the almost decade that I've been doing this. And when I'm like, hey, let's talk, share with me, like, why are we here? What's going on? And they're quick to share how they feel in relation to how their partner treats them, what their spouse said, what their spouse does that they don't like, how that makes them feel. And all of that is valid. And I will validate that. I will listen. I will mirror back what they said to make sure that I understand and that I'm clear. And then when all of that happens, inevitably we get to a point where I ask the question, okay, and what did you contribute to this issue that you're feeling? And there's always a pause. I do not use absolutes, always, never, everything. I use them in examples because I know people use them, but I'm very cognizant, right? If I use it to backtrack, because most things are not absolute. But when I tell you that in all the years that I've been doing this, nobody comes as quickly with what they may have contributed to the disconnect as quickly as they can tell me what their spouse or partner did. There's always a pause. Well, let me think about that. Like, what, how am I contributing to this thing? And what that just tells me is that as human beings and in relationship, we are so invested in how our partner treats us and how we feel when our partner does something that sometimes we don't think about vice versa. We don't think about the ways in which we are a contributing factor, one of the factors, right? Not the only, but one of the factors. I do this. So I'm not saying anything from a pedestal that I don't do. We don't think about that. That's what that pause says. I pause because this is the first time that I'm really thinking about that. And normally we'll get to a space, but we have to start with ourselves. We have to start with that moment that might, while it might not feel like in the moment, empowering, because again, this isn't blame. Nobody likes blame. Okay. Blame is something that someone else puts on you. Like, you did this, and if you would just write this situation, it always comes with a finger. Even if it's like a metaphorical finger, that's what it feels like. And you, no, nobody wants that. That's blame. Blame is something that someone puts on you. But we're talking about responsibility. We're talking about accountability. And responsibility is something that we take ownership of for ourselves because we have a certain level of awareness of ourselves, the sharper edges and the smoother parts. It's like, yeah, you know what? This is something that I want to work on for myself and on myself. This is something that I struggled with since I was a child or since I was a teenager. I struggled with in other relationships or other dynamics with my parents or other siblings. Like, that awareness of self allows us to take ownership of things. And that eliminates the need for our partners to do any of this. And sometimes they need to tell us about ourselves, right? And we also need to understand ourselves, right? And so in that moment, the first thing that I do is I get with self because I'm quick to know, like, okay, when you do this is how I feel. This is why this triggers me. Da 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 da. And this, we often don't have that full picture. And I already have this part about you, right, in my head. But if I want the full picture, what am I contributing to the distance? What are the things that I can improve upon? In addition to what I feel like I bring to the table that is working, right? Full picture. It's time to think about that. If you're in a period of disconnect, first and foremost, none of this, we gonna do some of this. And that's genuinely what I do. It has allowed me personally to constantly be in a state of growth and to learn to not take things as personally and take them more as opportunities. If my husband points it out and it's a light bulb, or if I'm realizing like, ooh, yeah, I don't like how I'm showing up. I don't like how I'm engaging in this relationship. I don't like how this communication is going. How am I contributing to how it's going and what I don't like, and how can I work that? Right. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing that I would do is find the simplest points of connection. When you're feeling disconnected, you're often exhausted, you're often overworked, you're often pulled in many, many different directions. You may have issues saying no to certain things and setting certain boundaries, but ultimately speaking, you're in a state of just, I can't have anything else on my plate. And you have the desire to connect with your spouse, but you don't have the energy. You don't have what you feel like is not the time and all of that. And so when I say simplest point of connection, I'm talking about low hanging fruit. I'm talking about the thing that could is most easily folds into your life. But it doesn't mean that it's not gonna take some effort, but the thing that can fold into your life. I was talking to a couple recently, actually two, that had the similar issue of young kids. One had like about three or four kids, and four kids, and what took in in-laws. Like, it was just a lot going on. Work was stressful, and they were really striving to figure out how they can connect in the chaos. What can we actually do? How can we actually fold something in our lives? And one decided that, look, we're gonna wake up like once a week, at least we're gonna start with once a week, 30 minutes earlier than we would get the kids up, to have tea in the morning together. It could be in the bed, it could be at the dining room table or on the little counter. We're going to tea or a smoothie or something that we most likely it was tea, because a smoothie probably would have woke that blender would have woke up the kids. So tea or just breakfast, coffee, whatever, together once a week. We're going to set our alarm to do that. Another couple was like, we are going to exercise together in the evening before we go to bed. Just a little 5 minutes, something simple. It allowed them to connect, it allowed them to have physical touch as well. And it was something that they did. They tried to do at least 3 nights before bed. The goal was to do it every night, but they didn't push themselves. They gave themselves grace. Low hanging fruit. You already, have a few minutes before bed, or at least they did, right? You can get up a little bit earlier to just have those moments together. And it might be like, oh, that's not going to make that big of a difference. You might want some grand gesture. You might want to start a monthly date night or date night twice a month. And if that's something that you can feasibly fold into your life, go for that. But the reality of, if you have kids, finding a sitter or a caregiver, making sure that you get dressed up, finding a place to go, the logistics of that can be a barrier. So if you do that, then it's extra, it's bonus. But in a season of disconnect, what's the simplest thing that you can do that can feasibly fold into your life as it is, right? That doesn't really require other people too tough, that you can do. Think something that will take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Something that you can commit to for like one couple of once a week. So I look for the lowest hanging fruit. I was ships that passed in the night with my husband for a season because of his job. And it sucks. Like, I was like, I don't get to see you. And we weren't really talking about things, and he was always exhausted. I was frustrated, not necessarily at him, but just at the situation. And I was like, okay, something's got to give here. And what gave was, okay, you're exhausted. How can we be exhausted together? Right? You're getting in the bed. Let's have a massage before we go to bed. Let's both take a bath. Let's read this book because we're gonna fall asleep while we're doing it anyway, and have a little cuddle. Let's throw on some music. Like, how do we make this time together something that is intentional around connection? And so, low hanging fruit. That's the second thing I would do. The third thing is, I would ask myself, right? Because sometimes these seasons of disconnect, you feel like you love them, but you don't like them. And maybe, real talk, you've even had a season where you questioned, do I still love this person? Is this person still for me? Are we still compatible? In seasons of disconnect, there there can be more volatility. It might not happen every day. Maybe it does. It can be quieter, more subtle, more silent treatments, and nobody else necessarily did anything wrong, but you find yourself not knowing how to speak to each other anymore. And so, with all of these, chew out the meat, spit out the bone. Chew the meat. No, you're chewing the meat. Chew the meat, spit out the bone. That's when you get a plant-based person to try to use this meat analogy. Chew the meat and spit out the bone in terms of what resonates with you. If this is something you need to hear, what makes sense for your life. Because there are some folks that I know that may be listening to this or out there, for whom it's a real rough patch, and they're starting to forget, like, why did I marry you? Why did I choose this person? This doesn't feel right, anymore. Have we grown apart? Like, those questions that come up at night, come up in your head that you might not say out loud. And so, what I would do third is remind myself of why I love that person, why I'm attracted to that person, in a very specific way. When I've asked people to do this, I like to see what people's default is, because you never know. And often folks' default is to talk about, well, they're such a great mother, they're such a great father. I love how they are with the kids. I love, when they take me out, and I love when they do these acts of service for me, and you know what I mean. They'll talk about what they love about the person is how they parent, how they relate to their children, and how they feel when that person does something for them. Like, I like the way you make me feel when you do this. And I also, it comes up a lot, I love the way you are with the children, which is great. And we're doing a lot of both and today. Okay, full picture is the fact that's not going to anchor you in your relationship, right? Instead, you want to focus on, why do I love this person? What about who they are? What about their characteristics? What about their personality? What about their physical characteristics? Are you still attracted to? Do you still love? the package of them, because it's great that you love the way they are with the kids. And eventually those kids will grow up, they will have their own lives and their own family and their own friends doing their own thing. And that's not going to anchor your relationship anymore. You're not going to be seeing the interaction with the kids in the same way. And depending on what's going on with you or them, how they engage with you changes over time. It shifts. Sometimes there are seasons where you're kind of disconnected and you're feeling a little lazy about the things that you quote unquote used to do, right? And they may not get those little gifts for you, or they may be so exhausted or so stressed from work that they're not as attentive as they used to be. Still attentive, but it's not the same as it used to be, right? And you're pulling from that used to be. And so that can't necessarily anchor you either. It's nothing wrong, and these are with it. They're good. It's good when we can really love how someone shows up in the world for other people, including ourselves. And it's also important for us to love who that person is, stripped of all of those other things. That will anchor you. Because even though they will shift and change, if you have a habit of continuously looking at this person, them looking at you, you looking at this person, saying, what do I love about this person? What attracts me about this person right now in the season that they're in? That's powerful. That is how people feel seen, right? Imagine how you feel if, like, yeah, someone says you're a great mother. That feels good. My husband will mention things like that. That feels good. But when he tells me things just about myself, I'm like, man, you're so thoughtful. You're so kind. You're so sweet to people that you don't know. You're so apt to take this risk. These are things that I love about you as a person. And I do the same. That is the game changer. Like, all of these are the game changers, right? Again, I told you we weren't doing any fluffy date night stuff. Not to say that date nights are great, but these, I wanted to share these real things, right? So we got getting with self, low hanging fruit, that simple connection that feasibly folds into your life, and really tapping into what about that person you love, you like, and that you're attracted to in the specific way that we talked about. The fourth thing that I would do is to share some of this stuff organically, like share 1 in 3. So I would share the things that I'm working on to improve. I would share the areas in which I feel like, I could have done better here. And I'm going to share the things that I love about you as a person. Now, I say organically because when we say share, we feel like we got to come, everybody sit, we're going to have a talk, you and me, let's share about, I'm not talking about that. When I say organically, I'm like, hey, you're on a drive to the grocery store, and it's like, hey, I was thinking, like, I really love how much integrity you have through the stress of everything that you're being put through at work. Like, you could play the game, but you still have this level of integrity that no one's gonna shake, and I love that about you, right? And it seems spontaneous. It's just, I just said it. I can put it on a post note. I can text it to you. I can say it in the car. But that's what I mean. Saying it organically, sharing it organically, and you're just having a moment on the couch. I was thinking about, like, I know that I am really good with how I'm looking for things for the kids and making sure they have extracurriculars and making sure that their talents and their interests and their passions are fueled. I know I do that well, and I'm really working on not pouring so much in the kids that I forget about you. I realize that I'm doing that, and that's something that I'm actively working on because I'm aware of it now. This could be at the dinner table. Hey, I was just thinking, blah, blah, blah. Like, it does not have to be some, like, we need to talk. Because when people hear the phrase we need to talk, something stirs up inside of them. And so I would share, number 4 is I would share organically. Number 5 is I would find support. And I have done this. Support for myself individually. We've talked to people in season. We've been together for 17 years. We have, like, there's an ebb and flow to relationships. We work on this, you're intentional about it. I would seek support. And this is not just a shameless plug, okay? one, because I don't feel shame about it, but two, because it's not about me, right? Those who are for me, who find me, find me. But just in general, because support can mean counseling, support can be making sure that you see your friends more often, because that feels supportive and what you need, at the time, an outlet that you need for yourself. Support could be getting therapy, either individually or collectively, because there's some things that you need to work out trauma wise, and you need to go back into your past and really work on some things that are troubling you on a really deep level. And support could be coaching, right? Support looks different, but someone that is objective outside of yourself, that can help you see things differently, that can help you piece things together and find connections that you would not even have thought about. It's immensely helpful, right? Support and guidance from the right person has never felt bad. It always feels good to feel like somebody has me, somebody is holding me. I can ask a question of this person and they're going to get back with me with their insights and help me work through something where I'm feeling stuck. Because that's what it is. If you feel stuck, having someone get you out of it is feels amazing. If you're like in quicksand and somebody throws you a rope and pulls, there's a relief in that. And that's what support and guidance gives you. So those are the 5 things, honestly, that I would do. If any one of those 5, I'm going to recap, resonated with you, you can just put the number in the comments down below, right? That first one was to get with self, and do so in a way where you're looking at what you bring to the table, but you're also looking at where you could improve and how you may be contributing to the things, right? Taking that ownership, that awareness, empowerment, not blame stuff. You're not waiting to be blamed. You're doing it. Totally different feel. I say this from experience. 2 is that lowest hanging fruit. What's the simplest thing you can do to connect? And I gave you a couple examples of that. Getting honest about what you love and what attracts you about your spouse right now in the season that they're in right now. Not like what it used to be, but currently. Why do you love them? What still attracts you to them? Yes, in addition to the things that how they make you feel and how great they are with the kids, and just about them as a person. 4, sharing 1 and 3 organically, right? Just let it come up. It doesn't have to be some long, drawn out talk. And 5, getting support, getting guidance because you feel held. And those are honestly things that I have done and things that I would do over and over again in a season of disconnect. And yeah, I mean, I hope that this resonates. I feel good about this one just because like I said, I don't see people talking about this. And I know it's out there. I think maybe they save it for the session. Right? They save it for the workshop, they save it for the other stuff. They may not be talking about it too tough on platforms. Um, and I'm sure some are, right? And I am happy and feel good about contributing to that conversation, being a contributor to that level of effort and intention that can actually take you from feeling disconnected and distant to actually feeling connected and held and safe, right? So, yeah, that's what I have for you today. I know I started a series in a couple of days. I was like, yeah, I'll start this series. But I saw some videos for myself around like 5 things I would do if, and I was like, I'm feeling that. I was like, I think that I can contribute to that today. And so I'm taking a break from our regularly scheduled programming, which I don't know if we really have regularly scheduled programming, but from that series, that self affirmation, self love series, to have this moment, because I think this is really important. So yeah, if you were feeling this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If this kind of thing is your vibe, because you want to have a better and more feel good relationship with self in addition to your partner and your spouse, and that's your vibe, please subscribe, because that's what we talk about here. And hey, I'm Imani Aisha, and I come on here to talk with you and have conversation about just that, how we can have stronger, more connected relationships with ourselves and with our partners. And so if you feel like you're in a space where you want to go a little deeper with this, I actually have a masterclass, a recorded replay masterclass specifically about how to find the connection piece when you feel like you have no time at all. How do you connect, busting up the excuses that we've kind of masked as reasons why we can't? They're valid, and they also don't have to stop us, right? So I talked about that. So if you're in a season where you do want to find that deeper connection and better communication, then meet me down in the description. I got something for you. And if you want to continue the conversation, please do down below. Leave me a comment. Like I said, if any of this resonated with you, I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for spending some time with me, for watching, for listening. I appreciate you and your time, and I'll see you then.